ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, podcast fans of all ages, party people, in the place to be. I'm Dave Valente. Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive. Joined by Dan Fishman, whose QR code's backwards, I think.
Is it backwards?
It is backwards.
I'm going to fix that.
You-
What's shaking, Dave? You're not at war?
I am not at war.
Even your insides? What did you have for dinner?
I mean, I did have some leftover pierogies with bacon. So
that sounds like nothing you would be at war with. Nothing spicy or no vindaloo.
Hey, a vindaloo is pretty righteous, though.
Oh, I like vindaloo. We just occasionally argue about who's coming out in what order afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, it does tend to create a conduit between lips and asshole, but it's fine. It's good stuff.
So let me warn everybody.
What in the heck?
I am going to be in worse voice than usual. I'm on the tail end of recovering from some convention crud. The voice is there. The lungs are iffy. So if you see me do this or I mute myself, as I tend to do, Dave will just fill in with song.
There we go. I will sing the song of my people. I'm trying to get something happened to the Restream overlay. Craig's comment got super blown up, and I'm not really sure why. But we'll deal with it as it happens. So, big,
how's that?
That works. Man, myth, legend.
Boom, shakalaka. Although it's not filled up to the top.
Hang on. There we go.
Oh, it's complicated. All right.
So
pay no attention to the man behind the glass.
That's right. So big news this week, of course. Yesterday, start hearing word about B-2 bombers being moved. We're now into the second week of the Israel versus Iran campaign. I'm not sure what is going on with the overlay. So we'll take that off and we'll just start broadcasting people's stuff. There we go. Hey, Janice. Hey, Chuck. What is going on? Monsignor Craig, how are you doing?
I'm going to give a quick shout out to my brother who was turned in. See, I got it in Palm Springs. Well, I don't know. I got back Sunday. I was here on the show. I sounded fine.
Yeah.
And then Monday, I started to feel a little iffy.
Well, there's a little incubation time.
Exactly.
You probably caught it from a Republican that was there trying to pose as some kind of liberty person. So.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the one thing that happens to every libertarian at Freedom Fest is a Republican comes up to you and he says, I'm actually a libertarian too.
I have a lot of libertarian beliefs. If I had
and then they want a French kiss.
If I had a nickel for every West Virginia politician who said, yeah, I really got a lot of libertarian policies that I really back, Elon Musk would be asking me for money.
Yeah, the problem, see where I'm going wrong is a lot of them come up and they say, I got a little libertarian in me. And I say, do you want a little more?
You just got to relax a little, dude. You get a little bit more.
Exactly.
Wow.
That's how we start off Pride Week here.
That's right. Right. It is. I set up the show before I went on my trip to State College this weekend. And, I was thinking, it's a great week. We got Juneteenth. We celebrated that on Thursday. It's Pride Month. Before we have another show, it'll be the anniversary of Stonewall. So it'll be a great chance for us to get to here and talk about, what Pride Month means, what Juneteenth means, the impacts, especially in the dawn of the Donald Trump Part D,
right,
that we're seeing right now. And it's, well, goddamn, the president comes over the top
bombed
of it.
Iran.
Right? Yeah.
Now I'll tell you what. I think we can say for the audience, everybody agrees, don't bomb Iran without a declaration of war.
Yes.
Right? We all agree that part of it. I will tell you that Marco Rubio changed my mind this morning on whether or not it's an imminent threat. And he
What?
said, look, Iran says they've got 60% refined, and that's as far as they're going. Nobody needs 60% refined, and they certainly don't do it in a mountain. He's like, Iran was, and so I was also not aware that Trump had sent them a letter 67 days ago, essentially saying, you have to come to the negotiation table about the inspections that you're not allowing, or there's going to be consequences.
I
I
look. I mean, we've
we can
been down.
disagree about that part of, but I think that part is true that did happen.
I mean, he said 2 months ago that he wanted them to come to the negotiating tables, and they were at the negotiating tables. They've been meeting in Oman. They've been meeting. I think Turkey has been trying to take part in this as well. Here's the problem. We can blame Iran for putting this facility in a mountain, sure, but the problem is Israel's attacked nuclear sites before. They attacked an Iraqi nuclear site in the early '80s. So, I mean, if and Israel's made no bones about the fact that it wants to attack Iranian nuclear sites. So, I mean, it makes sense to put a facility in a mountain if you're trying to protect it. And quite honestly, the wisdom of bombing, I can see Natanz, even though I will say Natanz and Fordo are both relatively close to large metropolitan centers. Again, Iran's a 92 million person country.
Yeah, it's big.
But bombing a nuclear facility in Esfahan, that is a city of 2.2 million people.
Yeah.
That is reckless. That is a war crime to me.
I don't know. Rubio has convinced me that they were building a bomb. And so now the question becomes, at least for me, is that okay? Are they allowed to build a bomb? That's funny. That's a very funny comment, Chuck.
I saw the biggest beaver I've ever seen in my life in State College.
You said that, and when I looked at it, I was expecting to see Buc-ee's.
No, it was bigger than a Buc-ee's.
Yeah, this was at State College.
Yeah, Beaver Stadium.
It's bigger than a Buc-ee's?
It's bigger than a Buc-ee's. And there's some big Buc-ee's, but
I was going to say the biggest
bigger.
Buc-ee's used to be a college football stadium. And they converted. No, I'm just kidding.
It's like, goddamn. All right. We actually just had a Buc-ee's open south of us in Harrisonburg.
It's going to do well in West Virginia.
Not in West Virginia, in Virginia. It's down by James Madison University. So it'll do well there. There's one apparently that's going to be opening close to Cumberland, Maryland, which, well, I mean, it's going to get people coming to it.
Yeah, I would drive. I would drive that far for the beef jerky.
Beef jerky
at Buc-ee's is amazing.
I've had the beef jerky. The brisket's pretty dope. But yeah, again, we've been told for how many years that Iran is 2 weeks from getting a nuclear weapon, or 5 days, or 24 hours, or all this reeks of George Bush 2003.
Right.
And
so Rubio kind of addressed that in his talk, and I recommend everybody seeing it. It's with Martila Bartoloma Lumascopa, whatever her name is, on Fox. And essentially what he said is that in Trump's letter in 67, and I kind of agree with that. That is their default holding position. I think that they have stopped so that they are a few weeks away. And they've chosen not to go past that. And the perception and maybe this is fair, maybe this is not, the perception was that they could no longer deal with that, with them being 2 weeks away. They need them to go back to being 2 years away. And in order to push them back there, they have to take away the 60% pure.
But you're trying to attain that by creating one of the largest humanitarian crises in the history of the world. I mean, you get a 2 million If you bomb a reactor in the middle of a 2 million person city, now Iran has said that they moved the enriched uranium away from these sites beforehand, so that they didn't touch them. But this is still a reactor in Esfahan. I don't think you're getting all the nuclear material out of there, and I don't think the Iranian regime is all that concerned about its citizens. I mean, we know that. Look, this is essentially porn when it comes to all the world leaders involved in this thing, because there are no good actors here.
Well, and let's just say too, you said it's porn, right? I mean, it is porn on the highest level, because on the one hand, I really think what this was about was the United States sending a message to Russia. Say, look, you think because you're not losing in Ukraine anymore that now you're in some sort of military driver's seat. We need to remind you that there is truly a superpower in the world. And regardless of all the other stuff, what
But
happened
why didn't they attack
militarily.
Bushehr? Bushehr is where the Russian nuclear scientists are at. In fact, Vladimir Putin called Benjamin Netanyahu on, I think, Wednesday
Yep.
or Thursday, and said, "Do not attack Bushehr because that's where Russian scientists are." So the Russians are there helping the Iranian nuclear program.
Well,
Um,
and the Russians just said today that they're now going to give nuclear weapons to Iran.
exactly. So now, I mean, what did you accomplish?
Oh, I think that things are going to have to escalate. I mean, this is the end game now.
So yeah, we're do we get to the point where we say the only winning move is not to play, or are we just
Unfortunately,
gonna
the game's
start lobbing,
already started.
or
So
we're gonna start
now,
lobbing nukes?
yeah, now I mean, I think it's going to be the Russians who end up
I'm
deciding that.
getting within hot dog range. I'm telling you
Yeah.
what. If the nukes start lobbing, I'm gonna find the closest ground zero, put a hot dog in a stick, and just let it ride, baby. Let it ride.
I mean, yeah, you could drive into DC and
I think Camp David is. I mean, Camp David is far closer to me. I'm sure that would be a target as well.
interesting, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of what they accomplished, I think that probably what they did accomplish is, and I think that what brought them here, and I'll go through like 4 different scenarios. This is the scenario I believe, but I think most people will think is statistically least likely, that this is a message to Putin saying, look, we have this capacity, and you know, nobody saw anything coming, right? It was completely blind. Nobody
Oh,
saw it
I
on the
mean,
radar.
we heard that the B-2 bombers were being moved beforehand.
We heard when the news was released by the government.
No, it was out there beforehand that people
Yeah,
would
I
witness the
I completely
bombers
think
being moved.
I
Oh, you can't
completely
really do anything nowadays without people's cell phones being out.
I so certainly people were aware that B-2 bombers took off from Missouri.
Yeah,
Although when I heard about it, it was about 3 hours before the bombs actually hit. Which
which
I
means they
think,
probably were on the way to Iran at that point. Like they
oh,
were
for sure.
en route.
It's I want to say it was 12,000 miles.
Yeah,
So for sure, they weren't traveling
trip around the block.
6,000 miles around 6,000 miles an hour to get there.
Yeah.
But I also, there's a good article in the Wall Street Journal. I haven't started reading it yet, but they talked about the fact that there was military distraction along the way too. There was submarine activity on the north of Russia's northern coast. Nothing in particular, but things designed to get the Russians looking there, pull their satellites, etc.
Yeah.
And then,
We could talk about the subterfuge of Donald Trump saying, "I'm going to take a couple weeks," because I mean that was the predictable move for Donald Trump, is to, everybody's been, and I think we're going to see a lot of this escalation of Donald Trump because people have made fun of him about the whole
the
taco
taco,
thing,
exactly.
and he's going to now be unpredictable, which is, it's going to get stupid. It's going to
So
get real
I,
stupid.
I want to go back to what Rubio said that Trump's letter said. Trump's letter said that if there wasn't a deal reached by today, that there was going to be action. And so the ball, as he said, the ball was in the Iranians' court. He said, and they tried to do what they always try to do, where they have negotiations about the negotiations and stretch things out. He said, but Trump's letter was very clear. The deal will be reached by this day, or America will act. So
it's still, I mean, to me,
is it illegal? Is it against? Is it against
War Powers
international
Act,
law? Sure,
yeah,
all that stuff. I grant you all of that. But so what Rubio continued with was to say, and we're not going to play any of those games anymore. He's like, this is the only deal that Iran is going to be offered. In the future, if they want to have nuclear power for electricity, they can absolutely have nuclear power plants. Okay, there are any number of countries in the world who have offered to give them refined uranium for that purpose. He's like, but Iran has clearly been sponsoring Hezbollah, the Houthis. They are a force of major conflict in the world. They cannot be allowed to have, while they're that sort of international citizen, a nuclear weapon or the capacity to be even close to producing a nuclear weapon.
So here's the problem that I have is that, Iran's not the only country that Donald Trump has threatened violence against.
Definitely true.
That he's also
Mexico. He threatened Mexico.
Mexico and Canada. I mean, so if Mexico and Canada don't come to trade deals with Donald Trump, is now his move to bomb the shit out of them? Like, this is ridiculous. Like,
it's definitely.
I will say, I'll admit 100% of the time that this is directly the fault of Barack Obama, in that he went and attacked Libya, he went and attacked Syria without a declaration of war, without an attack by either one of those countries on American soil. So the precedence was set by Barack Obama.
Well, however, we can go.
It's still illegal as shit.
We can go even further back than that. There's plenty. American international action is essentially of we want, so we will.
Yeah,
and that's it is what it is. Now it's also a question of might makes right, and it just so happens that we have been the mightiest around for a long time. Does that justify? It does not justify the scenario. On the other hand, if we talk about a real world scenario and what's really happening, what is the best option for Ukraine?
I mean,
right? Because
who knows? Like they're watching this, and in fact, Zelensky came out and said, as long as the people are focusing on Israel and Iran, the weapons are drying up to Ukraine, and Russia is amping up its efforts as well.
But more than the weapons are drying up to Ukraine, now it becomes apparent that the level of technological assistance that can be provided could easily be amped up enormously. And so, I think that, and we don't know what happened, but I think that there was a pretty reasonable result for Putin on the trade table, and he refused it. And it was something like, you can keep Crimea and Eastern stuff, but you do get to drop out, and we're going to put peacekeepers in the Ukraine, and we'll let them have a referendum on being members of NATO. And Putin's like, no. And why? Why would Putin say no to that? Because he wants all of Ukraine back in the fold.
Oh yeah, he's built his image just like Donald Trump has built his image on being a strongman. Exactly. And showing weakness then signals, internal rivals. I mean, most of the times it's more bravado. Like we talked about Donald Trump being a bully. Putin's a bully. Most of your strongmen are bullies that are afraid to show weakness. Their fear is weakness.
Right. Or right. Well, I think that they think that showing weakness, showing vulnerability, showing an ability to compromise weakens their stance.
Yeah. Well,
And that,
I think they are. I mean, I think there's one common denominator amongst the strongman type is that they are so afraid of someone from within viewing them
right,
as a weakling that any show of vulnerability or weakness or anything like that,
right.
not even so
Be,
much weakness, just backing down for a moment and
well,
seeking a peaceful alternative will
because
invite an attack and end their regime.
because the thing the tyrant doesn't have is the support of the people.
No.
He has nothing to fall back on except his rule
Oh,
through iron fist.
this is an interesting thing because back in I want to say 2000 or 2021, 2023, I go into Pennsylvania a lot, and as
Yep.
rural Pennsylvania, and
Mhm.
my God, the number of Trump signs in rural Pennsylvania were, I mean, they're more than weeds. And
Well,
they're all over the place. There is nothing. I saw one Trump sign. And we took the back roads to State College.
yeah.
I only saw one Trump sign this entire week, so I don't, think the shine is wearing off of his
I would
hardcore
agree that the
support.
shine is wearing off, but I would also say that it's 10 months too late.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's way too late.
The
But I
I
think
mean,
people are realizing that the
look, Trump's Looney Tunes. There's no
fuck
question
yeah.
about it. Everything we could do
Holy,
to get rid of him would be
I mean
make the country better.
his not tweets, but whatever the Pravda social things are called.
Prov to
Uh,
social.
yes, they're awful. I mean, they're just. I mean, he writes for at like a kindergarten level,
Yep.
and then follows it. Thank you with your attention to this matter. Like, is this or did you just shit out a dense paragraph of stupidity and then do like a form letter ending to to your tweet? Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Right.
Um, I watched Pete Hegseth's press conference, and it's the same thing. It's this weird locker room bully bravado that just how did we get here?
Hegseth is the worst cabinet member ever. I don't know how.
I don't know. I
Uh,
mean, RFK Jr. is getting in that level too.
it's tough. I mean, RFK Jr.
There's lots of competition here.
is crazy, but like
Gnome.
last week was the first I saw Hegseth's tattoo. Dude, that's fucking not okay. I don't care what
Oh,
anybody says.
oh, you hadn't seen that tattoo
Nope.
before?
Nope.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people say, "Oh, it's not a Nazi symbol. It's a German symbol." But you know what?
ChatGPT.
Fuck
It,
that shit.
yeah,
Um,
it's not a Nazi salute. It's a Roman salute.
yeah, exactly.
Shut the
So
fuck up.
just to stumble back into this thing, I don't think that if it really is about Ukraine, okay, and it's not about Ukraine for Israel, right? Israel is attacking Iran. I think a little bit of it is for Netanyahu to stay in power.
Well, yeah,
You know,
I think there's a good amount of that because
yeah,
Gaza for all its things are eh,
Gaza's wrapping
still
up.
still going, but it's wrapping up. He
Yeah, I mean,
needs something to
there's
keep the war cabinet going.
yeah, exactly.
But I also think that there is a message. You're right that there is a message being sent to Russia because I just again I will tell you that Russia was behind October 7th because of the planning, because of the logistics, all of the stuff that was involved in that attack.
Yeah.
They funneled it through the Iranians. The Iranians there were the main communicators with Hamas because they have those relations.
Yeah.
But that planning and that infrastructure for that attack was Russian.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think he is sending a message to Russia, but then he doesn't attack Bushehr. Although I hear they did attack Bushehr today.
Well,
I don't know if they attacked the facility,
but
but they attacked the town.
but I mean, maybe that's part of the message. We don't want to kill you. We don't want to kill Russians,
But we
but we
could,
have the capacity to do anything we fucking want.
yeah.
And here's another thing, right? So Iran has said that they're closing the Strait of Hormuz, and we probably should call that up on a map because most people don't know
Oh yeah,
what
it's a very tight area.
they don't know how tight and the depth of it because people are like, oh, it's how bad and how can Iran really claim that they're going to close it? But it's a pretty significant thing. And 20% of the world's oil ships through the Strait of Hormuz, and that's a lot. So what's interesting about that is, first of all, the U.S. has one fleet. The Fifth Fleet is based in Bahrain. They're very close. They could deploy. They could be in the Strait of Hormuz in 24 hours. The
Yeah.
carrier itself, and I can't remember which carrier
Well,
is
we've
in.
got the Fifth Fleet there,
Right.
and
Uh,
either Qatar or Bahrain. I can't remember which.
it's Bahrain.
There we go. So that's the Strait of Hormuz.
Right. And so people can see, right, the Fifth Fleet is right there. They could very easily right now be there and prevent the thing that is people are most worried about, that the Iranians would sink ships there and create an
Yes.
artificial reef.
Yes.
The Fifth Fleet is stationed in Bahrain specifically against something like that happening. So the U.S. would have sea power even without having to.
Unless the U.S. ship is one of those blocking the channel.
Well, the idea is that the Iranians would do it by sinking their own ships there.
Yeah,
It
just
certainly doesn't do any good. So the Nimitz is on its way to the Middle East, to the Fifth Fleet. The Harry Truman and the Carl Vinson have been, although Vinson is not going to be a carrier. People who don't know, only carriers have presidents' names, unless I'm mistaken about that. And Navy people help me out. And the Abraham Lincoln routinely is operating there. So that's quite a bit of capacity.
It's 20% of the world's oil capacity rolls through the Straits of Hormuz.
Yep. And so what's
I hope
interesting
you all got gas today.
Yeah. It's not a bad idea. But so what's interesting about that is, I think I've mentioned before that when I was a special ed teacher, I taught a member of the Saudi royal family. He was, and the Saudi royal family is enormous, but his father was, at the time, like 85th in line for the throne. So he was up there. I mean, there's several thousand. But what's interesting about it is he had offered me a job to actually come start an institute for autism in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia. He's like, Dan, we would put you in charge of it. You would be in charge of hiring everybody. You'd have the best possible facilities. We would make the official language English, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, Your Highness, are you aware that I'm Jewish? Oh, sorry. Can't do it.
Can't do it.
But
you might get a different reaction now.
But it's an interesting question, actually. Well, but so now what's interesting about it is every now and then he will still email me.
Oh, okay.
Usually it's because he's back in Boston, which his son lived in Boston at a residential program until very recently. Uh, and so he would email me about places to go and honestly strip clubs and stuff like that, things that he's not supposed to, he can't do in his own country, but
Oh
he's allowed
yeah.
to do overseas apparently.
We had a kid who was Saudi royal. I mean, kind of along the same lines of many lines
But
away.
yeah,
But yeah, whenever we went to conferences, they'd be in DC. He would be at the bar every night and just piss
so
drunk in committee.
so I emailed him today a suggestion that came out of a conversation that Jeff
True.
Lyons and I had. People who don't know, Jeff Lyons was deployed with the Seventh Fleet, served on the Ronald Reagan, which is based out of Japan. Which uh, one more fleet, either the third out of Naples or the seventh out of Japan, is likely to be deployed to the Gulf. Um,
It's a
we have,
lot of ships in the Gulf.
well, one inside, one right outside, or
On
one
the
inside the strait, one right outside.
Yeah, one in the Persian Gulf, one in the Gulf of Oman, probably. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so he said, you know what? Why don't they build a super canal uh, through Oman? You know, you say these guys have more money than anything else. It could easily be done. It's only about 20 miles, and you would make a fortune doing it. I thought it was a very good idea. So
Yeah,
I sent it to Prince Faisal. We'll see if anything happens with it.
yeah, I mean, you could, to bypass the Straits of Hormuz,
Yeah.
but, I mean, we can look at the terrorism angle and all that stuff, and that would, making a smaller choke point would actually kind of play into their hands a little bit more. But I know the Saudis have been creating
Pipelines.
oil pipelines across the desert
Yeah.
to kind of bypass. So we may not see as much, but we are taking what little Iranian oil is off the market. Kuwait will probably have issues getting their oil to market. So, um, I do hope you got gas this afternoon. Um, the futures market had it going up to $76. It'll probably they're talking about it going up to $90 a barrel, um, which will bring the American oil market back a lot more online. American oil still produces a lot, but the higher the price goes, the easier it is for us to justify getting more oil fields open in the domestic product. So, but yeah, this will be interesting. I'm going to be on the radio tomorrow, WRNR and TV10, talking about Iran at 8 o'clock. It's not a. I mean, look, this was an illegal action by the president of the United States. Long line of illegal actions by presidents of the United States.
Right.
Um, we're not seeing a whole lot of political leadership either from the Democrats or the Republicans on this issue. Massey put out that it was an illegal or unconstitutional, but Senate Democrats were the Senate Democratic leadership was they had their cheerleading outfits on too. So um, I don't think there's going to be anything. They're not going to hold him to an account on this issue, even though
So
we got to get the war powers back to Congress at some point. Would be
so
nice.
I mean, let's just say let's agree that, well, so an interesting question. They probably could have run it through.
Oh
And
yeah,
and
I think it would have passed if you
yeah,
ran that through.
well, for sure it passes the House. And then the question is, would the Democrats filibuster?
Would
And
Rand
would
Paul
they,
filibuster?
huh?
I didn't even seen if Rand Paul has spoken out against it or not, but
Right.
would Rand Paul
Right.
filibuster?
But they do have Hegseth. And if Hegseth brings enough votes, they might not have enough to filibuster. You don't need they.
Oh,
What are
you
they?
can get
They're
cloture. What
at 60.
60 votes?
Yeah, and so
Or the Republicans may just blow up filibusters
Right,
and
exactly. Well, so that's the other thing about it. And so I don't think that I, I think they could have done it. The problem with that is that it's the same for everything, right? No president wants to have that restriction on his authority, and he doesn't
exactly.
want to give that restriction name because it restricts his future actions. So, I mean,
Yep.
Trump least of all, right? Trump is not going to admit any, and he's not going to allow any restriction along his way. So, in that space, we're saying that they couldn't have gotten the declaration of war, but if they did get the declaration of war, would that
Which we
change
haven't had
things?
an actual. We actually haven't had a declaration of war.
Since Germany.
So no, Bulgaria and Romania, I believe, in the 1943.
Interesting.
Yeah, they were late adds to the World War II declaration, but um, the Korea was a UN
Police
action.
action, yeah.
The Vietnam was a military. Um, Started out as a military peacekeeper advisor ship,
Yeah,
and
no, I mean it's ridiculous,
yeah,
right? Iraq, Afghanistan, all, that part of it has become just a huge load of bullshit. And until uh, either Republican or Democrat, and they could have, the Democrats with their supermajority could easily have put in place something that said the president cannot deploy troops without blah 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 blah.
but it was Lyndon Johnson when he did the Gulf of Tonkin, so
Right.
they weren't going to go against their guy. That's
Well,
therein lies the root to
I'm
the
actually
issue.
I'm actually saying meaning in 2008, right? In 2008, when the Democrats have a supermajority, right? They have a
Well, they had a
filibuster-proof majority in the Senate.
did they?
Yeah,
Were they
that's
up to
how they got
60?
Obamacare through.
No, they were. They
And then
got rid
Ted
of.
Kennedy died after they passed it. And so uh, Scott Brown campaigned on becoming the 41st vote against health care. Dave, everybody in
I'm
the
looking.
audience knows I'm always right.
Mm. All right. Well, I'll look that up later.
It's definitely true. Somebody in the audience can look it up. 2008, the Democrats have 60 votes in the Senate, control the House, and Barack Obama is president.
And then they got pantsed in 2010 because of it.
2010. But so they've got 2 years to do everything they wanted.
Yeah,
And
but again, they're guys in power, and that's the thing. When you get to
thanks, Chuck.
Chuck, you're gone. Red card. Red card. You're done.
the the thing about it is that both parties learned from that. They learned from what a complete failure Obama's first term was. The only thing the Democrats got through was, and by the skin, thanks, Josh,
Oh my
by the
goodness.
skin of their fucking teeth.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you next.
By the skin of their teeth. People can't see the feed coming through, so they don't know.
Yeah, I'm hiding this stuff. No,
everybody's agreeing that I'm right. By the skin of their teeth, the Democrats get healthcare through. They actually get it through, but then they have to do reconciliation between the House and the Senate. Ted Kennedy dies, and Scott Brown campaigns on being the 41st vote against healthcare. And Massachusetts, the bluest friggin' state in the country, says, you know what? That's a legitimate complaint that, it shouldn't be we shouldn't be passing health care if one state would block it with a filibuster. And so Scott Brown wins on that, and Martha Coakley ran a terrible campaign. But that's what incidentally, that's what Project 2025 was all about, is that nobody wanted to see a repeat of that supermajority. Now,
well, they didn't want to see a repeat of Donald Trump's first term
too,
where
right?
he just completely crapped the bed.
Right. So here we are in this scenario where we agree that no president is ever going to ask for permission to do anything ever again until somebody with a supermajority comes through and codifies it. So here we are in this scenario. Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, they do. They get the declaration of war. Is it okay then? Are American actions justified? Is the state bad enough? Can a state be bad enough that we would say, you don't get to have nuclear weapons?
You know what? And I don't know if the date on this one here, but the 5941 is what they say is the makeup. So that might have been after Scott Brown.
After Scott Brown was elected.
I mean, so I'm not really sure what date that was, but it Ballotpedia said it was 5941.
I'm always right. I mean, and Scott Brown replaced
Ted Kennedy, yeah.
So back to the question, though. Is there a point at which we would say his state is bad enough that we would say, yeah, you don't get to have nuclear weapons? And it's an interesting question. I mean, this is the Ron Paul question.
Well, I mean, look at our actions throughout history. Are we good enough to have nuclear weapons?
You can say that we're terrible, but we are better than anybody else.
Again, this is not a high bar.
It's the only bar we've got. I mean, you can argue. Look, listen. America has done some of the shittiest things on the planet, and not just to the rest of the world, but to our own people. Right? The Tuskegee experiments, slavery. We are terrible.
Yeah, I mean we've done all kinds of shit.
We are terrible.
We have done some great things, of course.
Yeah, and so here we are in the state of the world today.
It's through our might that we get to make this determination.
It is. I mean, and our might is clearly given to us by God. No, I'm just kidding. But whatever's happened along the way, if you have the might, should you use it to do good things? And is it?
Are we doing it? Are we using it to do good things at this point?
I would say yes. I would say Iran not having a nuclear weapon, because of what they've been doing for the last 8 to 10 years, sort of actively promoting terrorism.
I mean, they've been promoting terrorism since 1980. I mean,
I think that they have
the Islamic Jihad. They've been promoting terrorism. They just morphed their terroristic goals.
Well, and I think that they are closer. And I don't know if there's a catalyst along the way, but Israel, and I don't know about Israel, but whatever is the rationale, if there's a catalyst, if there was something that made America and Russia feel like, okay, they've been 2 weeks away for 40 years, as Chuck Moulton said at the beginning, and they've stayed 2 weeks away deliberately. Is there something that made the United States or somebody else say, we're going to?
Donald Trump being a man baby.
Yeah, I mean, whatever is the rationale for it, is the world a safer place because Iran is less dangerous?
Is it a safer place if Russia decides tomorrow to give Iranian 3 ICBMs? And I will say a lot of what Iran, maybe they're somebody within the government wants to wipe Israel off the face of the earth, but Iran also has a right to territorial integrity. And I think a lot of, I think the idea that possessing nuclear weapons kind of brings them into the club and says, you know what, a country will think twice before attacking us because we have the right to respond and being able to defend ourselves. And we're at a disadvantage when you have a nuclear power in Israel and a nuclear power in the United States attacking
Sure.
us. And if Russia decides to send us some ICBMs,
Well, and it's an interesting question, and the one thing that we can talk about in the context with Israel is that since its instantiation, I can't argue with that. I can't argue with the fact that I am arguing the neocon spot here, and
you
it's
need to
horrifying,
you need to grow out a
horrifying to me.
John Bolton mustache.
But I think it makes for good radio. Um, this is probably the best my hair has ever looked on the show, too.
Nice.
So people should take shots of it. Um, the other one thing that is worth mentioning is that since 1979, Iran has had a declared state of war against Israel. That's a very interesting situation to be in as well. Yeah.
So throughout the Middle East, there is this has been used as a cause célèbre for Arab leaders since 1948. The idea that the Palestinian cause is the Palestinian cause for everybody within the Middle East. That Israel is an interloper within Arab lands.
Yeah.
It's been used to wash over some of the brutalities of these dictatorships. And, when you look at the Islamic Republic of Iran, what is the Islamic Republic of Iran? It's essentially the church is running the country. The mosque is running the country. So of course you're going to see those in the mosques of Iran. Again, most people in Iran want to be able to make money, want to eat, want to live.
Yeah. But in that scenario, then when you have, and that was another thing that Marco Rubio said, he said, we were seeing chants in the street, death to America, death to Israel. We're saying that if that's what you do, you can say whatever you want, but there are consequences. And the consequences are, we don't think you get to have nuclear weapons.
By unleashing possibly unleashing nuclear material on innocent civilians. Again, I'm not going to let this administration get away with, washing this because we're afraid that they get a nuclear weapon. Again, this whole 2 weeks to a nuclear weapon has been oversold. We've been dealing with
Iran admitted they had 60%, right? They moved their 60% refined uranium. That's their own statement.
Yeah.
So 60% refined uranium can only be used to make weapons. That's not medical grade. That's not nuclear power plant grade. It's only used for weapons, and it's 20% removed from being weapons grade.
Yes.
So,
and it takes a whole lot of shit to get through those next 20% to refine it to weapons grade.
Yeah, but its existence is saying we are on the path to making a nuclear weapon.
And it's something that we started in 1957.
We didn't say we were going to kill everybody. We were going to destroy Israel. We didn't say we were going to.
No, we said we were going to destroy Iran.
We didn't say that yet. Right?
We've been saying that we're going. If Iran so much as twitches, we will bomb them back to the Stone Ages. Bomb Iran.
I have a feeling that this is going to produce better, a better relationship in the long run with Iran.
Again, Trump talks about regime change. When does that fucking work? Ever.
Yeah, I don't know about regime change.
Well, you're not going to get the Ayatollah to go, huggy bro hugs with Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump.
That's true. On the other hand, I do believe that he is currently hiding,
Oh yeah,
right? And I think that it is a
which Trump
big
has been known to
deal
do too.
for somebody like that, for somebody to call themselves the supreme leader and saying, fuck, I have to stay, in this closet, or,
Well, Donald Trump wouldn't hid because there were people standing out in Lafayette Park. Remember the George Floyd protests? He went into the bunker during the heights of the George Floyd protests when they were in Lafayette Park. He went into the presidential bunker of the White House because he was afraid that they were going to take the White House.
I was not aware of that. Uh, I
They
wish
called him Bunker Bitch.
I wish that I had been aware, because that's awesome.
It
I
is
want
awesome.
him. I want him to be that afraid. But
Yes,
for me, that's a little bit of a whataboutism.
I know. I
Uh,
mean, it is, but they, honestly,
there's, there is an example of this uh, working before in history. I also support the idea of coming out of the
yeah.
closet,
I mean, I'm not. Look,
and I think that links into pride. The Christmas Day bombings. This is what it reminds me of the most, and I think there's only going to be uh, 3 people listening to the show who knows what I'm talking about with the Christmas Day bombings. So, do you know what I mean, Dave?
not right, not offhand. No.
So Nixon and Kissinger decided to bomb Hanoi on
Oh,
Christmas
okay.
Day.
Yeah.
And this is, for people who don't know, Richard Nixon was president of the United States in 1960,
68 to 73, 74.
68 to 73. And Henry Kissinger was Secretary of State. And they bombed the North Vietnamese on Christmas Day because they had been, the United States wanted to get out. They're like, fuck, the Vietnamese have kicked our ass. We want a graceful way out. And they couldn't get anything. Ho Chi Minh had 40 years of fury at the West, and he wasn't going to let us off the hook. So, by bombing on Christmas Day, the Americans showed we're willing to get crazy. And the Vietnamese said, okay, let's talk about what you getting out of Vietnam looks like. And what it meant was the United States got out of Vietnam and South Vietnam fell, and they had to live with that. But they got a little bit of time to evacuate who they wanted. It was essentially better than
So we got Ho Chi Minh in the end,
yeah,
and we got
exactly.
and we got whatever is in Iraq right now. We've got ex Al Qaeda running Syria. We've got the Taliban running Afghanistan. The idea that we get some kind of regime change out of Iran or some kind of
No, we're not
grand
going to get
concessions out of Iran,
the
I
point.
don't
The
know.
point is that they didn't get any concessions out of North Vietnam, but they got North Vietnam to realize this is where we're talking about the serious stuff and the things that we will do and the things that we won't do. And so I think that the hope, I think, is, and this is what Rubio conveyed. And like I said, that interview that Rubio gave was really surprisingly impactful here. And I think a lot of people probably are surprised by a lot of stuff I said today. Watch that Rubio interview this morning with Martia Bartiromo.
Bartiromo.
Yeah, on 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 Fox Sunday morning. And I only caught it because it came through my YouTube feed. Uh,
I mean, I saw
but
that tire fire that Hegseth put out.
I can't watch that guy. I mean, that guy's terrible. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. You
I
know,
mean, it's sad because Rubio is the only human being in that cabinet.
it is. I mean, he's a guy that I disagree with tremendously, but he was legitimately elected from a state that used to not be crazy. Uh, yeah,
I mean, Florida's always been crazy. I mean, Florida man's crazy.
Florida's always been America's penis. Um,
Um,
Speaking of Florida, let's talk about the state that is doing the worst job of celebrating Pride. the worst. It's been a we talk about a lot about, and we're just transition here, but pride is about visibility,
Yes.
and it's critical that visibility makes people understand existence. Everybody has the right to exist,
Yes.
and people being visible as they are is a little bit about them, but it's also a lot about us understanding this is the world. We don't get to control what's in front of our eyes.
And
Pride
also,
celebrations. Go ahead.
well, also, I mean, let's talk about the, why Pride is in June. The Stonewall riots were
Yep.
June 28th, 1969. Thinking about the world as it was back then, when to be a gay person, LGBTQ, anywhere within the GSM community, meant if you were going out and getting a drink at a bar, the police could just bust in there and arrest you and harass you.
Yep.
And finally, one night at the Stonewall Inn in New York City, the cops came in to harass the people, and it turned into a riot. And that riot went on for what, 5, 6 days. Um,
Yep.
and it started the movement of, let's start integrating these folks into our communities and start, accepting. You know, I've never had a member of the GSM community say, Dave, you need to join us. If you are, great, that's cool, but we're not recruiting you.
Yeah.
We just want to be accepted. We want to live our lives. We want to do things like marry and have a family, normal things.
Yep. And that part, and you'll hear a lot of people object to pride parades saying, I saw people dancing in scandalous ways
Okay.
or whatever. Let me first point out that happens in street parades everywhere, whether it's gay, straight, or orc and elf, or whatever is the parade and the
Furries.
assemblage.
I mean, it's all
Right.
good.
People perform in ways that are not going to fit your moral code, no matter what it is. And understanding that's exactly why pride parades happen. That's exactly why visibility happens. So that you know that not everybody is required to meet your standard of moral code. It's about everybody saying, huh, there's a wide world out there. And you know what? I got some shit that I do that might be a little freaky too. I shouldn't be punished for it. And in fact, I should be free and I'd like to be visible. Ari's got a great example.
Yeah.
Uh, Ari, since you mentioned it, we're just going to say, I think it's fair to say that you're a member of the trans community and you'd like to have your passport list your preferred gender designation. That's something that people worry about all the time. Okay. And that's something that nobody should have to worry about.
And forcing people to, I you know, I know Ari's had issues getting simple things as just as a driver's license,
Yep.
um, you know, birth certificates, all this other stuff that you and I take for granted every day. Um, and it doesn't hurt anyone else. Like that's the stupid thing about the current um anger when it comes to the GSM community is that them living their lives doesn't impact you. Like if
Yeah.
if they get married, it doesn't impact you. It doesn't impact your ability to get married. If they adopt a child, great, that takes a child out of the foster care system. That's a good thing. They have
Yep.
two loving parents. That's a good thing. Um, again, these things are things that don't impact you. They're just simple things that you're able to do in your everyday to day life.
And we're talking about this. This is not a woke idea unless you consider woke to be the essence of Christianity. Because you're going to have to help me out here, Dave, but there's this, what the fuck is it called? Uh, Grant me the serenity to,
Oh, the Serenity Prayer or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah, it's the I
to
can't remember exactly what
change the
it is.
things that I can change and to accept the things that I can't accept and to use credit cards where change isn't allowed.
That's right.
Something like that. But I mean, that's it's the core of the Judeo-Christian idea, right? So in fact, there is no more moral behavior if you are a Judeo-Christian path follower than to say these people get to do their stuff because they're not hurting me. And the idea that somebody living their life in a manner that you don't approve of hurts you, hurts your children because you think they're seeing a bad example. The example that your children get is from you. So the worst example you can give them is to be an intolerant son of a bitch.
Yeah,
And the
and
best example you can be, go ahead.
this is a good point Carol brings up because
Yeah.
so many stories about back in the day. If you were a federal employee and somebody reported you as being seen at a gay bar or seen walking hand in hand with a same sex lover, your career is over. They would fire you. It happens in the private sector too. It's, you know, just having the
And
protections to live your life as you are outside of the workplace. Like you're not macking down, and if you're having sex in the workplace, you kind of
yep.
deserve the slings and arrows that you get. But if after hours, your boss has no say on what you do.
Well, and the thing about it is how often does something like that, the idea that, oh, we're going to punish gay people, end up really hurting people, everybody, the larger community, because it turns out gay people are people. And so how many women were lost jobs or were held back because people said, oh, she's not feminine, she's butch, or, we think she's a lesbian.
Yeah,
Or how many men
just as yeah,
there
this
is,
suspicion. Yeah,
yeah, there is an accent in North Dallas. I can't remember the neighborhood for the life of me, but it is the most stereotypical gay accent you will ever hear. Oh my God. I can't even do it. I can't do it justice. But that's just the way people from that area of North Dallas talk. And yeah, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the strength to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That is what the
and the
serenity prayer
alcohol
is.
to make it go away.
And the alcohol, exactly. Right. To make me understand. So, so in that space, what was I going to say? North Dallas. I don't know. But Jeremy,
Well,
thank you
yeah, I
for
mean,
this.
just
Yeah.
just the appearance of and we saw it with race. I mean, uh, Babe Ruth got into one of the times he got suspended is because someone made the remark that his lips looked like he was
Oh yeah.
the product of a black kid or a black
Yep.
parent,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
and he went into a rage about that. And you know, just the appearance it was an existential crisis because you could lose your job, you could lose your housing. We still have housing issues in this country.
Yeah.
The you know access to benefits, access to seeing your lover as they are dying. And these are things that or they're in the hospital. These are things that we fought and won, and then we're starting to see eroded back again. The
Gay
times are becoming much more difficult for
gay
people.
couples. Gay couples used to adopt each other. One would adopt the other so that they would have legal rights for inheritance and hospital visitation and all that stuff. Yeah, exactly. Philadelphia, and it's an amazing movie.
Yes.
Quick trivia question: who's the only actor to win Best Actor 2 years in a row? It's Tom
Oh,
Hanks.
thanks. Yeah.
Forrest Gump, and then Philadelphia, or Philadelphia, and then Forrest Gump. And he almost won it the next year for Apollo 13. So, in that space.
Yeah, yeah. La,
That's good.
love,
That's the song I was waiting for, Dave. Next time you need to have something better. But
exciting and new.
when I
Oh,
lose my breath, exactly.
there we go. Honestly, it ties into our other topic tonight with the Juneteenth celebration we just had on Thursday.
Yep.
Again, we're in times of rolling back of protections and ideas that once we thought we had kind of won the day on those arguments, and we're starting to see the idea of bigotry and racism normalized again.
You
Um,
know, and it's crazy to me that there would be an objection to celebrating Juneteenth,
yes,
because slavery is among the worst. I mean, maybe it is the worst of the human sins that we've committed against each other.
yes,
And it happened probably as long as humans have been around. And the effort to end slavery, and we can argue about whether or not, you know, the Civil War was necessary to end slavery, but the effort to end slavery itself, that can't be viewed as anything less than among the best things that we've done.
yes.
Okay.
I we I so ending slavery was an amazing thing. It
Yep.
it was the promise of what we talked about in the Declaration of Independence.
Yep.
Giving life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and delivering that to a whole new group of people. It wasn't perfect, and
Yep.
we ended up having to fight more battles over the ideas of Jim Crow, and we had to fight for women's equality. We had to fight for Native American equality down the line, and those and pride and LGBTQ equality. Getting America is an imperfect experiment,
Yep.
and we've been trying to perfect it as we go along, and now we're starting to see this stuff roll back, and it's concerning. It
Yep.
absolutely concerning. Like I this is why every time I see stuff like this, that the Trump administration or Republican governors in the states trying to push these ideas of rolling back protections, I'm pushing against it. Pushing again, calling it out. We got to. We can't let this. We can't throw our hands up and just say, what can I do? You got to
No,
call it out.
because
You got to identify.
you're
You
right.
got to raise awareness about it.
You got to have some fucking pride. You got to be visible.
Exactly.
That's what this month is about, and why this message is for you and for me and for us, because we have to have pride and exist and be visible and say that we are the people who are the embodiment of the world that we want.
Yes.
Okay, we want a world where we do get to stand up together, hold hands with the people that you want to hold hands with, don't hold hands with the people you don't want to hold hands with,
Yeah.
because as our good friend, oh god, I can't remember his name, doctor who ran against Gary Johnson from
Dr. Feldman.
Libertarian, Dr. Feldman's our good friend Dr. Feldman used to say, he's like, I think that you really do have two bathrooms, always have to have two bathrooms, one for people who wash their hands and one for people who don't, because those people, I don't want to touch the stuff that they're touching. I'm a doctor, I'm a certified physician. Okay. And I
Dr.
appreciate the
Feldman.
fact that there is a country that allows me the freedom that says I don't have to shake hands with the people who don't wash their hands after they go to the bathroom. That's okay. That's what we want to have. But we all have to be the people who stand up together, right? And I don't know if as human beings we're made in any divine image. If we are,
There's one
it's
ugly
kind of,
god. It's me.
yeah, it's kind of been broken in its mold. But I think all of us have a feeling that there could be something more, something better, something more pure in the way that we help each other. I've always said that charity does more for the giver than it does for the receiver. Because for you to give of yourself, for you to give to the world, helps you know something more about yourself. And that's it's an important revelation. And so here we are, Pride, Juneteenth, uh, wrapped up together, and we have forces that are
Well,
trying to say,
let's talk about um, Donald Trump getting out there and tweeting about we have too many. He tweets it on Juneteenth that we have too many
too many holidays.
holidays,
Too many
and
holidays. The son of a bitch who has the Armory March on his birthday
yes,
complains about too many holidays.
too many holidays, too many, and not only having the army march on his birthday, which they didn't really march, which was kind of cool,
Right.
but he doesn't do it on the 4th of July. He doesn't do it on any other federal holiday. President's Day, he didn't do it on that one, which is probably
Yep.
the most useless holiday that we have. Although I'm not complaining about any holiday that we get. Um, but he points it out. If Donald Trump wanted to seem like less of a racist, he would stop doing stuff on holidays that celebrate this or that or the other, any race that's other or anything that's other than complete white guy.
Yeah.
Um, uh, you know, uh, God, he's so goddamn embarrassing. Just just goddamn embarrassing.
It's not, but it's not just him. And if we
Oh
say that
yeah.
it's just him, then we are missing something I wrote a lot about this
But
last week.
he's emboldened a lot of people that held these beliefs, but were right to hold them very close to themselves and not bring them out. And
Well,
and now he's like, let's put it all out there.
but there's this great line. I want to say it's Matthew 7, but somebody who's familiar with the Christian books can tell me where I am.
2 Corinthians.
And it's definitely not 2 Corinthians, but I know that one. 2 Corinthians walk
Corinthians
into a
walk into
bar.
a bar.
Exactly. We'll come back to that one in a second. But in this one, it's a passage most people know. It says, how can you take the plank out of your brother's eye when you can't see? How can you take the speck out of your brother's eye, the mote out of your brother's eye, when you can't see the plank in your own? And all of us who are complaining about Donald Trump are missing the fact that we are complaining about authoritarianism. And with very few exceptions, most of us are supporting authoritarianism somewhere in our lives. And Republicans and Democrats, I'm really talking to you here. Okay. You guys have been in charge of the country in one shape or another. And you've always said, well, we're going to do this. And we're going to ban people from doing that. The other side, well, we're going to do this. And we're going to ban people from doing that. And the problem is that when the power of government is used in an authoritarian manner, it represses the freedom of the people. And the freedom of the people is everything that pride and visibility is about. Pride is about expressing your joy at freedom.
I will tell
Visibility is
you,
about, huh?
and I'll tell you that the greatest advances in human history have come in the face of power rather than that adherence to power. So we've stepped up against slavery. We stepped up against bigotry.
Yep.
Jesus flipped the tables in the temple. These are acts against the local authority or the
Yep.
national authority those are the greatest changes that we've seen in Martin Luther King standing up in a peaceful protest against Bull Connor. These are the
Yep.
greatest acts of human history, the greatest advances of human history. It's
And
because we have bucked the authoritarians and not adhered to them.
and here in this country, we were gifted with the best example. You know, everybody tells all these stories about these things that George Washington did, and I live right across the river from George Washington's house now, and so get to see Mount Vernon and think about George. And you know, there's some things that he did that uh, are people don't know the whole story of, but there's the story about how he chopped down a cherry tree, or said, "I cannot tell a lie," or how he had fake teeth, or how he was the first president or the general, all these things that he did. But we should really be celebrating for the thing that he didn't do, because he could have been king and he
They wanted to make a
refused
king.
it.
Yeah.
They wanted to make him king. And probably the most meaningful piece of art, song that I've been lucky enough to hear recently is George Washington's farewell address in Hamilton the musical. Teach him how to say goodbye. And George talks about the idea, and he says this in his closing speech, right, in his farewell address. I am mindful that and I'm going to butcher this because I don't know it from memory, but I am mindful that I am going to be unaware of the mistakes that I have made. And certainly we know now that George Washington had plenty of mistakes. He says, but I trust that the people will know that I did the best that I could in the place that I was at the time. And that's all that we can do.
Yeah.
We are in a place right now where the world is giving us choices, and it's asking you to do the best that you can do right now. So find a way to ring that bell in your heart, because it's there. And when you do the good thing, or you know what, I'm gonna go to a different musical instrument reference. Taking away the bell, find a way to pluck that string in your heart, because when it sends out that noise of something good, it resonates, and other people's heartstrings are going to hear that as well. You being a force for good, an
Yeah.
example for good, prideful of your good, visible doing good, that's the thing that wins. That's the thing that beats Trump. Turning aside, turning your cheek, getting the plank out of your own eye, being the best us that we can be, that's how we fix it all. That and answering news quizzes.
That is true. Or we all end up in the gulag, which is, hey, at least we'll have good company.
As long as
All
there's
right.
quizzes in the gulag,
There might be. Do I get to eat today? No. Damn it. All right. 5 things news quiz from June 20th, which was Friday. So the
right,
bombing of
a
Iran.
world ago in terms of the news.
Yeah. The U.S. bombing of Iran is not going to factor in here, though we might see, uh, actually, you see some bombing there. All right. Question number one. Largest manhunt in which state's history ended last weekend with the arrest of the shooting suspect right after our show. He was arrested.
Yep,
Vance Bolter.
right.
Michigan, Minnesota, Massachusetts, or Maryland?
It was in M State. I
It
mean,
wasn't him. It
I
was
know
Minnesota.
it's Minnesota. He was hiding in the
Minnesota.
ground like a gopher. Like a gopher.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
story, uh,
gets
it
weirder and
is
weirder.
it's just a horrific story,
Yeah.
and the fact that it's being buried because of all the other things that are happening right now is,
Eat a BB.
yeah, it sucks. But it was Minnesota.
Yeah. Question number two. The Senate recently voted to advance the Genius Act. A bill aims to create a framework for regulating which of the following: artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, medical research, or online privacy?
It's funny because it is about the stupidest thing, which is cryptocurrency.
Are they going to regulate the Trump coin?
It's about stablecoin. Oh, hey, but since you mentioned the Trump coin, I don't think it's going to be in the quiz. Can we talk about the Trump phone?
Oh, yeah. Well,
So
I mean, I saw the gold-plated piece of shit.
yeah, so Trump is trying to. They've announced a Trump phone, and you can actually sign up for it now and pay for it. Uh, I don't know that there's a telco that's agreed to carry it yet, but
Huawei.
what'd you say? Huawei?
Huawei.
Huawei. Well, so that's the thing about it is that it's
Comes with TikTok and
it's $50, unlimited internet, 5G, widespread 5G coverage, uh, and you get added to Pete Hegseth's signal chats for free.
what a bonus. I mean, and I remember seeing the map for it, and the map has the Gulf of Mexico on it. So that was
Well,
perfect, you know.
right. So I say
All right.
cryptocurrency.
Crypto bros. And that's correct. Legislation would regulate stablecoins, a cryptocurrency that is tied to the value of the US dollar. So fiat currency stabilized by fiat currency. Awesome.
Yeah.
Greg got that one right as well. Good
Yeah. I
stuff.
mean, there is other countries have had success pegging their real currency to the US dollar and stabilizing it. But the fact that there can be an infinite number of stable coins defeats the purpose behind it.
Exactly. Question number 3. Which ally of President Donald Trump was found guilty this week of defaming a former employee and leading of a leading voting equipment company after the 2020 presidential election? Rudy Giuliani, Steve Bannon, Roger Stone, or Mike Lindell?
You know what? Now I wish this were the biggest story of the week because this is a fucking huge story.
It is.
Right. Uh, First of all, if you have a product, right, and it's called My Favorite Hump Pillow, that's a problem. But what Mike Lindell said, and we know it's Mike Lindell, what Lindell admitted saying in court was that he made up everything about the election was stolen. Okay?
Yes.
He said that he had no actual information saying that the election was stolen. And, there was kind of a case. Who was it? There's
We got
somebody who
Craig
said,
and Heather.
right, somebody who said, who bet him like $5 million or something and said that he owes him money. Do we know this at all? I can't
No.
remember it. Anyway,
I mean, the whole circle of crazy around Mike Lindell.
right.
And let's not forget his online ad for his pillows, the My Pillow, that appeared with the price of $14.88. Gosh, that was like 2 or 3 years ago. Corporate
Okay.
malfeasance is
So this is what happened. This is a real story, and I remember it. So in 2021, Lindell held a cyber symposium and issued a $5 million challenge to anyone who could prove that the data that he presented was not from the 2020 elections. Cybersecurity expert Robert Zeldman, Bob, as we know him, analyzed the data and concluded it was not authentic election. In fact, it was just encrypted PDFs, random numbers, and files date stamped just before the symposium. Clearly not from 2020.
well, anybody who like I would never go to this guy like Mike Lindell for anything cybersecurity. Like,
Yeah. So
his pillows can catch a fart, though. I'll tell you that right now.
So, an arbitration panel ruled in April 2023 in Zeldman's favor, and Lindell had to pay him $5 million.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then right after the judgment, he posted that they found him not guilty, which
Right.
What reality do these guys live in? Like,
It's insane.
just the cycle of insanity is amazing here. All right, question number 4. Which legendary intelligence service will be led by a woman for the first time ever? CIA, Mossad, MI6, or KGB?
I don't know.
My guess is either MI6 or KGB. I've
Yeah, except Judy Dench was in charge of MI6. So um I but I don't think they would be celebrating KGB, so let's go MI6. And let's see if the audience.
Correct.
Hey, all right.
Hey, Blaise Metrowelli, I'm sorry,
Yep,
will become the chief of Britain's foreign intelligence service MI6 this fall.
yep. Yeah,
That's awesome.
good. Yeah, I mean,
What's up, real DC?
I look forward to the day that we don't celebrate that.
Yeah, I mean that would be great. Question number 5. Which of the following took the number one spot on the ranking of the world's most livable cities in 2025, according to the annual list from the Economist Intelligence Unit? Copenhagen, Vienna, Geneva, or Melbourne? Saying took, but it's usually Copenhagen.
Yeah, I would also guess Copenhagen. I mean, Geneva is in Switzerland, so no, not most affordable, right? Vienna, obviously, an artsy
No,
fartsy
most
city.
livable. It's most livable city.
Oh, livable. That's
It could be
interesting.
Geneva or Vienna.
Yeah,
Melbourne's got them damn spiders.
yeah,
All of Australia tries to kill you.
yeah. Australia's in trouble. I think that, but I agree with you that Copenhagen is most likely.
But it says took the number one spot, so I'm not sure if that Copenhagen lost its number one spot. Let's see if anybody in the crowd has any idea, because I don't.
Copenhagen has free e-bikes.
Those fuck those e-bikes, man. Have you ever
Do you
walked
not like them?
downtown in DC?
No.
So walk downtown in DC, and those little e-bikes, the little scooters,
Right. They
those
don't.
things are everywhere, and like somebody will ride them, and instead of putting them off to the side, they just drop it in the middle of the middle of the sidewalk and just laying it across the sidewalk. It's such a pain in the ass.
So that I kind of agree with. I
Uh,
do think that
Melbourne,
they've addressed
or I think
some of
to
that.
Copenhagen.
Well, and I see we have the real DC on here. So if real DC says Copenhagen, I'm inclined to think it's Copenhagen too.
Let's do
Uh,
Copenhagen. It is.
yeah,
Copenhagen, Denmark's capital, topped the list after receiving perfect scores for stability, education, and infrastructure.
yeah. And we just
Not
want
bad.
to, since we're mentioning Denmark, shout out to Sandy Toxic.
There we go. Question number 6. 7 people have been charged in the involvement in an operation described by officials as the largest jewelry heist in history. What did they steal? Gold, Rolex watches, loose diamonds, or all of the above? Treat yourself.
Well, if it's the largest jewelry heist in the world, I'm
I would
pretty
say all of the
sure
above.
it's that giant gem on top of the gem supermarket building. That thing is like 8 feet across. And no, I'm just kidding. I'm being silly. I mean, it's probably all of the above, but I could see an opportunity where, well,
I mean, loose diamonds. If the whole
right,
conflict diamond stuff, that's always
yeah,
a big thing.
yeah. On the other
Um,
hand, watches, there's a factory somewhere, right? What if
yeah,
exactly? I have no idea. We're going to need the audience to bail us out on this. Don't look it
I'm
up,
I'm going
audience.
all the above.
We're not asking you cheating to cheat. The Pink Panther diamond, uh, famous, not that big, right? It's like the size of my
That's what
fist.
she said.
Yes. Also, um, the I'm hoping that somebody's going to come up with this because we're going to have to guess pretty soon.
I'm gonna guess all of the above.
Yeah, although I do like the
Oh, Hody,
Hody, it's been a great show.
it has been.
You're gonna really like it. And we should give a quick shout out. I think this is the first show where we've had over 10,000 viewers, so very exciting. The what was I going to say? Oh, I lost it. I completely lost what I was going to say.
Well, we're gonna go all of the above. See what happens.
Right.
It is all of the above. Massive theft of gold, watches, gems, and jewelry worth an estimated $100 million. Yikes!
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look that up. That's amazing. I thought it was going to be a gold statement of we went to Fort Knox and, like they said, all the gold was gone.
Question number 7: which volcano erupted this week, sending an enormous ash column into the sky? Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier, Mount Lewatobi Laki, or Mount Doom?
Mount Doom was destroyed when the ring was dropped in it. They think we're stupid.
It's precious
now. I can't imagine that it is Mount St. Helens because I think people would
or Rainier. It's close enough to Seattle. That would be a cause for concern.
I agree, but
or
if
Tacoma.
It's just an ash column, it's interesting. But I agree. It can't be the American ones.
It would have been a much bigger story if it was any of the American volcanoes.
So. Except there was so much fucking news going on.
This is true,
right?
I could have had a volcano. Well, I did have a volcano erupt in my house earlier this week, but that's a different thing.
Right, exactly. Right. All right.
Let's go Lewatobi Laki.
Right.
Oh, Little Miss Heather says that. Is that I guess that is an American one then.
All right, so that's great.
I had no idea where that one was at. That is correct. Mount Lewatobi Laki eruption
in Bali.
It's in Bali.
Bali.
Caused a delay or cancellation of dozens of flights to and from the island of Bali.
Right, which is in Indonesia.
Big Bali.
Nice.
No whammies. Question number 8. Which of the following prominent UK figures was not awarded knighthood in this year's King's Birthday Honors list? David Beckham, Gary Oldman, Harry Styles, or Roger Daltrey?
Harry Styles too young.
Yeah, that's the one that sticks out here.
And I think that they're going to wait until his styles are a little less hairy before.
But he did get some. Was it Harry Styles that got the? I can't remember one of all these British pop guys. Confound me.
I don't know. I mean, he's a pretty good guy. He was great.
No, that was the other redheaded British guy that
Rupert Grint.
Just won the Marvin Gaye case.
Oh, Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran, there. All those redheads look alike.
They do.
Sorry,
all the English redheads, especially.
Yes.
I was going to say Harry Styles was great in Dunkirk. People who haven't seen Dunkirk, you really should see it. It's an amazing movie.
The Biebs got it.
I'm glad Roger Daltrey did. I hope that when he got up and he got his OBE, they said to him, "Who are you?"
Who?
Exactly.
All right. Question number 9. Which hockey team won the Stanley Cup Finals this week? Montreal Canadiens, Miami Blades,
nice.
Edmonton Oilers, or the Florida Panthers. This one's the easiest one.
Yeah, it's
Florida and Brad Marchand.
Yep.
My wife says he has a punchable face.
He does have a punchable face, but that guy just has a nose for the goal.
That's a big nose.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, he's as much as I hate especially when it was with Boston. Hated Brad Marchand. I would take
Oh
him
yeah,
on my team any day of the week.
yeah. No, we used to always say in Boston that if Marchand weren't on our team, we would hate him.
Yeah,
But how much
but
does
I'm
Stanley?
sure Boston's pretty happy about him winning the cup with
Oh
the
yeah, no,
Bruins.
because I mean Boston's furious about the team being taken apart.
Yeah.
They uh, they want the Bruins to just completely wreck the salary cap,
What
spend all the
happens
monies.
with Pasta? I mean, he just signed a big contract.
No, they're going to rebuild around Pasta, and
That's but is Pasta going to want to stay around for
oh,
that
I think
rebuild?
so. I think so. I
I
think
don't know.
I think he was probably in on the very early part of the negotiations, and saying, you know, this team we have has too much old high price talent. We're going to build a new team, and we're going to build it around you because you're only what is he 25,
Something like that.
and we have a. I have
Oh, I'm going to need help on this one, y'all.
it's not in
Uh,
reach.
Question number 10. Who is taking over the lead role in the Broadway show Oh Mary? Trixie Mattel, Bianca Del Rio, Jinx Monsoon, or Pablo Vitar? No clue on this.
I'm going to say that not only do I not know the
I would say
the,
I'm going to guess Pablo.
the show, I was also going to guess Pablo, but I don't know the show, and I don't know any of the actors,
I have no
which
idea.
means I have to turn in my Jew card because people say Jews know three things.
Aaliyah's got Jinx.
Oh, I like
And
it.
I would trust Lee on this one.
Oh, and
Um,
Ari as well. All
oh,
right,
all
double
right, all
whammy. Let's
right.
go, Jinx. I think this is a 10 out of 10 choice.
Jinx, you owe me a Coke. It
Nice.
is. Monsoon, who won
Outstanding.
RuPaul's Drag Race and RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars, will take over the role from Cole Escola, who won a Tony Award for the part. I have not. I've not heard of this show, and I've
I've
not.
not heard of
I
the
mean,
show either.
but awesome, cool. Way to go,
Well,
Beebs. Thank you for the assist. We got a perfect week. 10
yeah,
out of 10, A plus.
it's especially interesting considering there was so much news, but we
Well, cutting
sorted
it
through
off
it.
at Friday helped a lot. So
Yeah, that's true too. Right. We would have been answering questions about centrifuges and all sorts of crazy stuff. All right.
yeah, I think we're
There's a news show, a news game show called Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me
I love
on
that show.
NPR. And what they do sometimes when they end the show is they say, what story do you think we'll be reporting on next week? So, Dave, you tell me, what is your fanciful story? Or I can lead it off. I'll lead it off and then you can come back.
All right.
I think that we are going to be reporting on the fact that Europe announces that they've reached a peaceful resolution to the excuse me, Ukrainian and Iranian uh, situation. And what's going to happen is that the two countries are actually going to change place, like
Oh,
a
nice.
house swap, but there's going to be a country swap. Everybody in Ukraine is going to move to Iran. Everybody in Iran is going to move to Ukraine. The Russians and the Iranians will be happy because they're next to each other. And that's the story that I think is going to happen.
I mean, they're not. I mean, that's not. I mean, it's out of the realm, but it is a. They're
So
roughly the
you,
same size. It's not like a vast difference in the size of the country.
right,
So, I mean,
right.
I
What is your funny story that you think will happen that we might be listening to next week?
I think I think what is going to happen next week is that alien ships will descend upon the Earth, and it'll be completely ignored because Donald Trump does something completely outlandish. And
I like it.
I I actually see that one happening.
There is a
So
musical album called Children of the Sun based on the idea of aliens coming to Earth and saving humans. So listen to the album and My lungs are failing. I'm going to sign off, everybody.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you all next week on the Political Deep Dive.